Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back in. This is B Sports Network, and we are going to be going over the past week of MLB, looking in what's going on around the league. This is your best place for information. We're going to do things a little differently today. We're going to dive right in, though. We're going to go team by team. Just break down how each team's doing. We're going to go alphabetical just to make it easy. And, of course, we'll end off with power rankings, as always. But got most of the information that I normally would just kind of spill out during the power rankings section, listed by team, and we're going to do it that way. So starting off, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks. They started this week off with a 2 RBI walk-off single from Kevin Newman. That's how they opened the week, and he exploded from the 11th until the 14th of May. He batted 10 of 14 with 6 extra base hits. They ended up taking a close 2-1 series win over the Reds. By the way, guys, I'm not just looking into nothing. I have my laptop down here, making sure that I'm giving you all the most accurate information. I know that this probably will get out a bit later, so once we get to the Padres and the Braves, they probably will have played game 1 of their doubleheader by the time this is out, but at the time I'm recording it, they have not. Anyways, Arizona got completely, embarrassed at home against Detroit. 13-0 in game 1, 8-3 in game 2. It did not look good. They ended up winning game 3 6-4, but really just not a good series for them against another team that's around the same level, or at least where I had them in the power rankings. I believe I had them 15-16 last week, and Detroit kind of just made them look bad. Anyways, the D-backs will play against LA in LA, and that's the Dodgers, not the Angels, to kick off next week. So not really what you're looking for when things are starting to go downhill. You're not going to be able to pick up much momentum there, but hopefully they can get things turned around when they play Miami at home after that. And little player update, Corbin Carroll, he's continuing to underperform. He was 2 of 19 this past week. His average is down from 201 to 191 over the week. He was an all-star last year, batting 285. He had 25 home runs with 54 stolen bases. He only has 2 home runs and 8 stolen bases this season, which puts him on pace for 7 home runs and 27 to 28 stolen bases. So we are looking at a little bit over a quarter of his home run total, and right there about half of his stolen base total. So that's not really looking too good for him. And we'll see another player just like that as we're going to go ahead, slide over to the Atlanta Braves. But we'll get to him towards the end. We're going to kick it off. The Braves picked up back-to-back shutouts against the Cubs to open the week, Monday and Tuesday. They looked really solid, and then they ended up kind of going downhill, didn't play so well. Game 3, lost 7-1. Braves fan, as you can probably tell by the hat, hasn't been that fun the past few days. Padres are looking really good against us, and I don't know what's going on. Kind of got demolished on national TV last night. We're down 2-0 in that series right now, and if it wasn't for a 9th inning run, we would have been shut out for the first time this season, but we keep that streak alive. At the minimum, we are still the only team that has not been shut out, so I am okay with that. Chris Sale is looking like him old self as well. He has a 2.54 ERA and 0.89 WHIP, which is 4th in the MLB, and he's pitching 11.2 K per 9. Really solid numbers from Chris Sale, getting back to how he looked back in his prime almost. Now Bryce Elder, disappointment on the other end of the pitching spectrum. 2023 All-Star, and this season he has a 6.46 ERA, 2.03 walks plus hits per inning pitched, and he's 1-2 in 5 starts. Just not what you want to see from a pitcher like that. Expecting a bit more, and now the Braves are on a 3-game losing streak. They've only been on a 3-game losing streak once, and it was when they got swept by the Dodgers. So look for them to hopefully pick up that first game in the doubleheader. Like I said, this will probably be posted after, so fingers crossed that we got that one. Anyways, the Braves led the league in home runs last season. They're currently 19th with 43 home runs. They're also 19th in runs scored, which isn't that great either. Ozuna and Albies are the only players that are over 260 in this lineup as far as batting average goes. Ozuna's batting 323. Absolutely great numbers, especially compared to where he was at this time last season. Albies is batting 279. Solid numbers from him. 7 starters, though, ended last season above 260. So a big drop-off for the Braves. And Ozuna lost the RBI lead to Alec Boehm last night. Boehm had a monster game, 5 RBIs. and just was able to take it away from him. So kind of sucks there, but can get it back today with 2 games. We'll see what happens there. But the big story, reigning MVP, Ronnie, he is not doing well. Acuna batting .242 with 3 home runs and 14 stolen bases. He had the first 40-70 season last year, and he was batting .337. He's not on a great pace here. He's going to barely get 1040 at this pace. I'm hoping that we can at least push that to 2050 by the end of the season. I think he can still have a solid season. He's nowhere near MVP this year, but just kind of crank things back in, and we're still early. There's time to improve, time to get things rolling. We'll see what just happens over the course of the season. Moving on, we got Baltimore. They had a bit of a tougher schedule this week, but they were all at home. They opened with a 3-2 extra inning loss to the Blue Jays, but they were able to pick that up in Game 2 after a rain delay in the middle of that. That was a really great 2-game series that we saw 3-2 both ways, and Rutschman actually clutched up for the Orioles. 2-run homer to go ahead and give them the win against the Blue Jays for that series split. And then they went ahead, they took the series in Seattle 2-1. Jordan Westburg and Adley Rutschman are both batting over .280, giving the team 3 batters that are over that mark. O'Hearn is once again batting over .280. He's at .288 last season, .289, so he's about where he was, but there's some improvement within that lineup, and we already saw how dangerous Baltimore was last year. Gunnar Henderson is also tied with Kyle Tucker currently for the home runs lead. They're both at 15, and Shohei and Judge are both at 13, tied for 3rd behind those two. The Orioles as a team are tied with the Yankees for the most home runs as a team, and that's at 68. And the Orioles have the highest slugging percentage in the entire league at .446. That's 13 points ahead of the Dodgers. This team is dangerous, and they carry a lot of power. Moving on, we got the Red Sox now. Boston is continuing to slide. Not so great for them. They were 17-13 at the start of the month, and now they are 23-24. They have dropped below 500, 6-11 this month, and they are just 2 games above the Blue Jays, who are last in the AL East, which is once again an extremely stacked division, but you don't want to finish last. And I believe Boston finished their last season, so trying to get out of that, trying to improve a little bit, it's just not where you want to be right now. They dropped a home divisional series to the Rays earlier this week. That was a great series, or I guess last week at this point, but it was a really good series, really fun, and they have to travel to Tampa now. They got to play them 3 more times. They lost at home, now you got to play them on the road. Got to see how it goes. They also dropped a series to the Cardinals. They're missing Wilson Contreras. The Cardinals are missing their best player right now, and both losses in that series, because they went 1-2, were by 4 or more runs. Rob Refsnyder and Connor Wong are starting to play more consistently, which is good for this lineup. They're starting to be in the lineup more, and they're really showing good numbers. They carry the 2 highest averages on the team, and the highest and 4th highest OPS for the Sox. And neither of these 2 hit over .250 last season. So they're doing great. It's definitely a bright spot, bringing things up. And if the Red Sox can start tying things together, they should be solid, because their biggest struggle really right now is defensively. And 9 of their losses this month, they've allowed 4 or more runs, and it's just not working. You can't allow a lot of runs and still win games. They only have 1 win this month when they give up 4 or more. So that's a huge struggle for them. 3 of their healthy 5 starters actually don't throw 4-seamers. And I've heard them talk about it on MLB. Teams that don't throw a lot of 4-seamers typically don't end up well. And the Red Sox were performing fine at the beginning of the season, so they were like, I mean, maybe you're not worried about it. Maybe they're kind of breaking away from that trend, but they're falling right back into it. And just got to find a way to do something about that. Moving on to the first Chicago team, we got the White Sox. We're not going to spend much time here. They took 2 of 3 against Washington. Both games shutouts, so not a good series for Washington. Nationals did not perform how they should have. Then they got swept by the Yankees. Kind of expected. Really, you don't expect the White Sox to compete with a team like the Yankees. The fact they did so well against the Guardians last week doesn't mean too much. They did about where most people would have expected them this week. Probably would have had them losing another game to Washington rather than taking the series. But it's just rough for the White Sox. They're going to finish down there towards the bottom again. 2 consecutive seasons. On to The other side of Chicago, we got the Cubs now. They got shut out twice against Atlanta, like we already mentioned. They took Game 3, but they couldn't carry the momentum into the weekend series. They beat Pittsburgh last weekend, two games to one on the road, but the Pirates flipped the script and won 3 of 4 against them. They did get the walk-off win on Saturday. Their lone win was a 1-0 walk-off, so a little bit cool. And Shada Imanaga, I probably butchered the heck out of that name, I am not going to lie, is dominating the league right now. 5-0 record, .84 ERA, which leads the league. 6 scoreless outings already, including his last 2 times on the bump. And he has a 0.91 whip rating, which is 7th in the MLB. Absolute beast at pitcher. And not to be overlooked is Javier Assad. He's 4-0 on the season. You have 2 undefeated pitchers in this rotation. The Cubs have a really solid starting rotation, and if they can put things together, you're looking at a team that could be threatening later on. Javier Assad has the 3rd best ERA in the league with a 1.49. Problem is, Swanson's on the IL, and so is basically the entire bullpen. There's 6 relievers on this roster that are currently out. Just not good for this team. You need to get those guys healthy, and once they do, I think they'll be a lot more competitive and possibly compete for that NL Central with the Brewers. On to another NL Central team, though. We got the Cincinnati Reds. This team has 3 wins in May. They went 2-5 this week, so 2 of those 3 wins came this week, maybe getting things a little rolling in the right direction, but it's just really slow month for them. They dropped the series to the Diamondbacks 2-1, and they dropped the series to the Dodgers 3-1. Dodger series, alright. You got to find a way to bounce back against Diamondbacks. They got 1 game this time. They lost 3 at home back a week ago, I think, last week. But the struggle is because they can't win the close games. They're 0-7 in games decided by 1 run this month, and when you're staying close, you're staying close. So you have a chance in all of these games, and you just can't capitalize, and that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem for any team, that they're able to hang in a game and they just can't finish off a win. But this was a team that was 2 games over 500 after April. They're now dead last in the NL Central, and 500 really doesn't seem realistic. It just doesn't anymore. They went 3-7 on their West Coast swing. They just wrapped that up. So they're going to get to go home, but they're going to play 2 more NL West teams. Just play them again. They play them back to back. And they're combined 4-12 against the West this season, so not really a great record there. Not something that Reds are probably looking forward to. And they're 0-3 against those teams at home. Only 3 starters in this lineup are over 250, and none of them are over 280. So really not batting too well, but at least Ellie is running. Ellie De La Cruz out here completely dominating the stolen base race. He almost double second place. He has 30 stolen bases. No one else even has 20. Only one other person has over 15. Absolute absurd numbers. At this pace, he could put up about 90 stolen bases, I believe. That would be insane. Haven't seen that in a while. Maybe he pushes for 100. That would be absolutely fun to see. Anyways, we're going to head on to Cleveland now. Cleveland getting things back rolling. They had that struggle against the White Sox last weekend. Started questioning them a little bit, see, like, are they really as good as they were? Is something kind of happening and everything? But they went and bounced back. They took 2 of 3 against the Rangers, those first 2 games, and they actually had a shutout in one of those. Those games were 7-0, 7-4, and 4-0. 4-0 was the loss at the end. And then they swept the Twins. The Twins seems like the wheels have fallen off the bus, but that's 3 wins against a divisional opponent. So if there's a tie, intra-divisional matchups do break ties when it comes to being tied with other teams. And I think the AL Central teams, you'll have somebody. If Cleveland doesn't win the division, they might have to break a tie with an AL East team. And you're both playing in decently tough divisions, but the East is way tougher. So making sure that you get those intra-divisional wins is going to be huge to make sure that you can break those ties. Andre Jimenez is on a 7-game hit streak right now, having RBIs in 5 of those games and multiple hits in 5 of those games. The 2 games that he did not have multiple hits in, he got a home run. So that guy is going off right now. Ty Freeman got a hit in every game this week. Jose Ramirez hit in 5 straight. He went 0 for 4 yesterday, but he should hopefully pick things back up. But they've done all of this without Stephen Kwan in the lineup. And he's batting a team leading 353. He's on the IL. And they are still performing well. Not to mention, two-time All-Star pitcher Shane Bieber made 2 starts. His season's over. Cleveland is still performing despite injuries, and it's great to see this team just up here competing with the big dogs. The Rangers won the World Series last year. They take 2 of 3, even despite the injuries. Anyways, we're going to go ahead, head on to the next team. That's going to be Colorado, the Rockies. What are the Rockies? Like, somebody give me an answer here, because I don't know how to evaluate this team. You're telling me that you swept the Rangers, okay? Then you sweep the Padres. Oh, but we're going to get swept by the Giants. Doesn't make sense. You can't go out there and sweep 2 of the better teams and then just get swept. And I don't know what's going on, man. Like, things just seem like they turned upside down. This team, overall, I think that they don't play the best, but they can win. And they can and will ruin a good team's week or weekend. And I genuinely think come September, they have 6 games against the Dodgers in the last 9. They might take 5 of them. The Dodgers could fall to either 3rd overall. Maybe they're doing well, they fall to 2nd overall, or maybe they fall to even 2nd in the West. I think that Colorado could genuinely damage a team like the Dodgers come the end of the season, and it's not going to be fun, but Colorado's that kind of team. But this team does have talent. Ryan McMahon is batting over 300. Elias Diaz is on the brink of 300. He's right there at it. Charlie Blackmon's a 4-time All-Star. Ezekiel Tovar and Brenton Doyle are both batting over 270. And 4-time All-Star Chris Bryant should be back up in the lineup later this week. And reports are saying that he should be returning Tuesday. We'll see what happens, but should get him back this week, and that will be huge for this team. I think that they can improve. I think this could be a top 20 team come the end of the season. I don't think that they're a playoff team, but I definitely think that they'll outperform where they're at right now. On to Detroit. What kind of team gets shut out twice against the Marlins? I don't even have to finish the rest of this, because who's getting shut out by the Marlins? But what makes it even crazier is they put up 21 runs in their next 2 games. Oh, we get shut out back-to-back against the Marlins. You know what? We're going to go put up 21 runs against the Diamondbacks. I mean, good on you. You're proving everybody wrong. They go, oh, wow, something's wrong with this team. They just lost to the Marlins twice. They couldn't even put up a run. Let us show you 21 of them. It's just wild. Like, there's been some crazy things that happened, I feel like, throughout this week, and I don't even know how to keep track of it. This team has power, though. They have the ability to go off, but they just don't get the results. 104 of their runs have come in 13 games, but they only have 89 runs in their other 33. They have outscored 33 of their games in 13 games, and they've been shut out or held to run and 12 times. You're not going to win too many games when you're just scoring all your runs at once. So if they can find a way to space this out, they can possibly become a playoff threat. And by playoff threat, I mean just a team to make the playoff, but they're not showing consistency, so they're not going to get there right now. Winslow Perez is batting 301. Kerry Carpenter is batting 276. Matt Vierling is at 261. They're the top 3 in batting average on this team, but it seems like when one player hits on this team, everybody hits. And other games, no one hits. That's just how it is. Seems like that's the way things go in Detroit. Anyways, on to Houston. The Astros are finally coming alive. Astros fans, y'all got to be excited. Y'all have been waiting, seeing, are we gone, or are we actually going to come back? When are we actually making this comeback? It's finally here. They went 6-1 this week at home with a sweep against the A's. 4-game sweep, and then 2-1 over the series, over the NL Central leading Brewers. Magnificent series. And you know, they gave up 4 runs every game, but they were consistent. They went in there, they said, we know we're going to give up 4 runs, so we just got to beat that. And they did, twice. So props to them. Altuve hit in every game this week, so he's doing well. He's carrying momentum. Kyle Tucker hit in 6 of the 7 games this week and belted 2 home runs yesterday, turned a share of the home run lead. 8 of 9 players had a hit yesterday, so we'll see what momentum they're carrying into this week. They should be looking good. The entire outfield is batting over 280. It's honestly shocking that they didn't pop off sooner, and the fact that they're under 500 with all the stats that they have, because they're leading the league and batting average. They have the highest batting average in the entire league, and they're top 5 in slugging, on base percentage, and OPS. There is no reason this team should have a losing record, but they do. They play the bottom 2 teams in the West this week, so I think it's reasonably possible that the Astros get to 500 for the first time this season within this week. On to Kansas City. The Royals went 4-2 this week with a series loss to the Mariners 2-1, but then they swept the A's. The A's got swept by both teams this week. Rough week for the A's. We'll get to them later. Not going to spend much time there. So it was an okay week for the Royals, but you would have wanted a little better. Everyone knows this team's explosive, and we've seen it all season. But what you probably didn't know is that the Royals don't rank in the top 10 of average, slugging, or on base percentage, or OPS, or home runs. Wild stuff. And they are only 8th in terms of runs scored. You would think this team is a lot higher. Like, you think of offense, and I feel like the Royals are one of those teams that are up there, but I guess they're just not up there. They do have speed, though. Speed is getting it done. Bobby Witt, Duran Blanco, and Michael Garcia all rank in the top 10 of stolen bases. This team is fast. And Salvador Perez is still having a fantastic season. He ranks no lower than 11th in any of average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, or RBIs. And he's currently 9 points ahead of Jeremy Pena for the AL batting crown. On to the Los Angeles Angels. We know that they're beat up. We're not going to spend much time here. They would obviously be a much better team if they weren't hurt, but they still took a 2-1 series win against the Rangers to close out the weekend. So don't know what's going on there. Maybe Texas is struggling. We'll get to them in a bit. But just not something that we would think is characteristic of that. They did drop the series to the Cards. I knew that would kind of happen. Both of those teams are a little banged up. And it was a decent series, just like I expected. But Cardinals do take that. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. We got the Dodgers now. The Dodgers aren't showing the dominance that we saw at the beginning of the month. They're sweeping teams. They were going on long win streaks. They're really winning a lot of series 2-1, 3-1 now, which is still fairly dominant. Don't get me wrong. But we got used to the sweeps, I think. They kicked off the week with an extra innings win against the Giants, and they ended the week with an extra innings win against the Reds. So, kind of fitting. Storybook ends to the week. The Dodgers are still a top team in the league. Are they one? We'll have to wait for the power rankings. I think that they're up there. They're definitely close, and I think things are starting to heat up. There's a lot of good teams, and a lot of teams are starting to show dominance. A lot of teams are really popping off, and there could definitely be some shakeup at the top, so stay tuned for that. They have the 4th best record in baseball, and 2 of the top 5 batters in average. Also, the top 2 and 3 of the top 10 in on-base percentage. Shohei leads the league in average, slugging, and OPS, and is tied for 3rd in home runs. Obviously, he's going off. Probably another MVP in the future. Not going to jinx it, but he's looking solid. And Teoscar Hernandez, I don't think that's really someone that we expected to be up here, but he's running 7th in homers right now. So, solid season for him right now. As a team, the Dodgers are top 3 in each of these categories: runs, home runs, RBIs, walks, average, on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. That's 8 categories, all for hitting. They're pretty much up there. Whatever hitting category you want to choose. Someone asks you to name a top 5 team, whatever category they go after, Dodgers are probably there. They have 4 players batting over 290. I believe that's the most in the league. I looked through everything. Now, Miami. The world might be upside down because they just decided they wanted to win 2 series this week. I don't know how, but I guess they did. And they even threw 3 consecutive shutouts. So if someone wants to explain how that happened, that would be great. But the Marlins aren't supposed to do that. They are the worst team in the league. Don't think that they're anything better because they had a decent week. They still rank bottom 10 in every batting statistic. They've still allowed the most runs this season. They have allowed the 2nd most hits. They have hit more batters than any other team. They've walked the 3rd most batters. They have the 2nd highest whip rating of all teams. And they traded their star player. This team has no reason to be winning. Let's be honest. Alright, move on. We just got the call in. Brick right here. He just told us he's got his candidates for his series of the week. He's down to 3. we'll see at the end of these team reviews what it's going to be. We're down to the Blue Jays versus the Orioles, a 2-game series that's split with the postponed game in the middle. Very solid series. I like that series. 3-2 both ways. The Marlins and the Tigers. Now, I mean, this series really didn't have much implications, but it was definitely a good series. Good close games throughout all of it. And surprisingly fun to watch for the Marlins. Don't say that often, but maybe a little like, they're not going to win anything. Maybe they win a series of the week. We'll see. And then we also have the Rays and the Red Sox. Close games, 4-game series, every single one decided by 2 or less runs. And that looked like a really solid series. I know there was at least one extra inning game, and then there was one game in the 9th inning where it got decided. So we'll see what Brick decides. We'll find that out at the end of the team reviews. Let's go ahead and dive into the second half of the teams. We're going to go with the Brewers now. The Brewers had a fairly average week. They narrowly picked up a 2-1 series win against the Pirates, and then narrowly dropped a series to the Astros. So nothing too big, nothing too small. They looked solid, but you want another win if you're the Brewers. You want to take both of those series, just not able to do it. William Contreras, Christian Yelich, and Bryce Terang are all batting over 300. Given Yelich isn't a qualified batter, according to statistics, so he's not going to pop up in any rankings that you look at, but we know he can legitimately hit that and stay over 300. That's very realistic for him. Joey Ortiz notched a hit in every game this week and multiple hits in half of the games, so watch out for him. He's hot right now. We'll see how he continues to go. And we won't really get a true test of where the Brewers are this upcoming week as they face the Marlins and the Red Sox. Red Sox have been faltering. The Marlins aren't that great. But the week after that, next week, they will get a divisional series against the Cubs. That should be fun. We'll see how things go there. I'm really looking forward to that series. I think it can be a good one. Alright, now we got the Twins. So, the Twins are fading. They're fading fast. 0-6 this week. Seems like we were just talking about the other way around not that long ago. 6-0. What was it, like 12-game win streak? I know it was over 10. They were going great, and now they got swept by the Yankees and the Guardians. 2 very competitive teams. So, I mean, you look at it, yeah, they lost to good teams. They didn't lose to like these crappy teams. It's not like they went out there and got swept by the Rockies and the Marlins or something like that. So, a little bit of credit, but they're just not showing that they can compete with the big dogs. They can compete with these middle-of-the-pack teams, but when they get to the top-tier teams, they're not competing, and that's really what I think we need to be looking at. They're 7-10 against playoff teams heading into this week, and we're combined 1-7 against the Guardians, Dodgers, and Orioles, and now they're 1-13 against the teams over 600, excluding the Royals. I excluded the Royals because they dipped below 600 for quite a bit of this week, so they're right there on that line. And I just don't think it's fair. The Royals are sometimes good, sometimes bad. Yes, they're over 600, but we'll say over 610 if y'all want to get technical. Over 605 even. The Royals are barely there. They weren't there yesterday. But now they're 7-16 against playoff teams. It's just not good. Doesn't feel like they're going to be competing for anything. They're just kind of like one of those teams that beats the teams they should, but that's it. And maybe you're happy with that, maybe you're not, but I would assume most fans want their team competing for the playoffs and playoff spot, but I just don't think that's going to happen this year for the Twins. Anyways, next we got the Yankees. Back-to-back shutouts for the Yankees against the Twins in a perfect 6-0 week. Outscored opponents 31-6. The Yankees are going off. They didn't allow more than 2 runs in any of their games this week, but they did have fairly light competition. The Twins and the White Sox aren't really that great. They're AL Central teams. White Sox are definitely the worst team, and I think the Twins, honestly, this might be a hot take, but I think the Twins are the second worst team in that AL Central. I think the Tigers are a little better than them. And then obviously I believe the Royals and the Guardians are both better. But they have a tougher schedule this week. 4 games against the Mariners, and then 3 games in San Diego. It should show us where these Yankees truly are. If they can pull off a sweep against the Mariners, I don't think the Padres are too impressive to pull off a sweep, but definitely if they can notch a 6-1 week here or better, that would be huge. Really would sell me on this team completely. They're top 10 in whip rating, strikeouts, and shutouts, and lead the league in batting average against. So what the opposing team is hitting against your pitchers, and runs allowed. They also dominate at the plate. They're tied for the lead in home runs. They're top 6 in runs and walks, average, on base percentage, slugging, and OPS. Juan Soto is still top 10 in average. He's batting .311 despite the ups and downs that we've seen throughout a season. And Judge is tied for 3rd in home runs. Soto and Stanton are tied for 7th. So this team has power. That's why they're up there tied for the most home runs as a team. Gonna switch over to the other New York team. We got the Mets. And the Mets and the Nationals, they're just having a mid-off right now. They're trying to be the worst team in the NL East. And they're both trying really hard. New York's dropped 3 straight divisional series now. They went 2-5 combined against the Phillies and the Marlins. They actually had a solid series against the Phillies. They looked decent, but just weren't able to pull anything together. They looked decent against the Braves as well. They just haven't been able to capitalize on wins, and I don't know. I feel like they could definitely be doing better than where they're at. The schedule's not going to get any easier, though. They have the Guardians and 3 NL West teams to end off the month. But they gave up 5 or more runs in 5 of 7 games this week, and they gave up 21 runs. 21 runs to Miami over the course of 3 games. 18-2. 18 over the first 2 games. So excluding the 3 games the Mets just played, the Marlins were averaging 3.62 runs per game before that. They gave up an average of 7 and 9 over the first 2. So, yeah, the Mets did not play well. The Mets did not play that Marlins team well at all. The Mets are 15th or worst in every hitting statistic except for strikeouts, where they're 5th. So they put the ball in play. That's one good thing. And Jeff McNeil is the only player on that team not striking out around or above the same rate as they are hitting. On to the A's. I wanted the A's to be decent so bad. Like, not good. I didn't really care if they were good, but I just wanted them to be okay. But they're just not showing it. They went 0-7. They got swept by both the Astros and the Royals, and they've now lost their last 3 divisional series. Their only series win this month was against Miami, and we know how good Miami is. They're not. On May 5th, Oakland was a game away from 500, and now they're 11 games below. They have 3 guys that have consistently been in their lineup and are over 280, and that's Kyle McCann, Abraham Toro, and Brent Rooker. So you got some bright spots in that lineup. They're 4th in home runs and 11th in walks as a team. So they have power and they have discipline, which are 2 things that you like to see. So maybe they can improve throughout the year, but we're just not seeing it right now. Defensively, they rank 25th in ERA, 24th in whip, and 24th in batting average against. So not too good on the mound. The other team is getting on base really well, and they aren't getting on base much at all. So that's not a winning formula. But we'll see if they can improve on that. Anyways, on to Philadelphia, one of the hottest teams, one of the best teams in the league. They went 6-1 this week, and with a 3-1 series win against the Mets, the only loss was in extra innings. They swept the Nationals. That's 6-1 in divisional games. They're looking solid, and they've beat every NL East team except for the Braves in the past 2 weeks. The schedule doesn't line the Braves and the Phillies up for a while. It just kind of sucks how the schedule's built. I don't like it. I know that there's a lot of people that don't like it, but we just kind of have to deal with it. The Phillies have scored at least 4 runs in all but 2 games this month and have a record of 14-3. That's the best record this month. They're doing great. They are on fire. They are the best team in baseball by record and the only team over 700. They're sitting at 34-14. The pitching has been great, and they rank in the top 5 of ERA, whip, and batting average against. Ranger Suarez leads the league in whip at a .76. Wheeler is 9th with .97. Suarez is 3rd in batting average against. Wheeler 7th. Nola is 19th. They have 3 really freaking stud pitchers. This is a great squad. Great rotation. But the bats are insane too. They've scored the most runs of any team and are top 7 in homers, walks, average, on base percentage, slugging, and OPS. This team is good everywhere. Turner and Bohm are 2 of the best hitters in the league, and they're batting .343 and .330 respectively. Insanity right now. Switching to the other side of the state, we're going to Pittsburgh. The Pirates bounced back this week a little bit. They went 4-3 and 1-1 in their series, so just a little bounce back, not too much. But they were struggling quite a bit. They lost the series to Milwaukee to open the week, as the ninth inning comeback in Game 2 fell short. That was really their only chance. They could have won it in the first two games, but that third game just was not good. They avenged their series loss, though, against the Cubs, like we were talking about. They beat them 3-1, and their only loss was that 1-0 defensive battle where it was the walk-off in the ninth. Jared Jones and Paul Skeens, though. The rookie combo, this is dangerous. Dangerous for everyone around the league. Be scared. If these guys stay on this Pirates team for a while, the whole league better be on watch out. Jared Jones has 6 quality starts in 9 outings, is tied for 6th in whip rating at a .91, has a 2.89 ERA, and is averaging 10.7 K per 9. He's doing really well. Paul Skeens threw 6 no-hit innings in his second outing on Friday, and if he can keep his pace, he'll be at 13.5 K per 9. He threw 7 Ks in 4 innings in his first outing, and then 11 in that no-hit 6th inning appearance on Friday. On offense, however, the team is in the bottom half of all stat categories, except for walks. They walk a little bit, but maybe having that confidence in the pitching staff will take a little bit of weight off their shoulders, and they'll be able to loosen up and improve at the plate. On to San Diego. Make it make sense, man. This team should be a lot better. They should not be getting swept by the Rockies. They're currently up on the Braves 2-0, though. It's a back and forth kind of thing. They should have at least taken one game against the Rockies. How they got swept is beyond me. Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish are both pitching wildly spectacular right now. Cease's 2.45 ERA ranks 14th in the league. His .78 whip is the second best, and his batting average against of 141 is the best by 13 points over any other pitcher, and he also holds a K per 9 of 11.1. He's having a great season. Darvish isn't considered a qualified pitcher, but his stats aren't ranked. He does have a 2.08 ERA, a .90 whip, and a 179 batting average against. So those are really good stats. Overall, the pitching staff clocks in with a 3.99 ERA, a 1.21 whip, and a 233 batting average against, all of which rank between 9th and 15th in the league. So as a team, they're still solid on the mound, but they definitely have those top two doing a lot of work for them. Offensively, the Padres have scored the 7th most runs, they've hammered the 9th most home runs, and they rank in the top 10 of the average on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. They're led by Jurickson Profar. He's batting .335. Arias is batting .309. And their rookie, Jackson Merrill, .291. An absolutely insane, great rookie campaign for him. Just love to see it. On to the other Sam. We got San Francisco. The Giants are now a game out of a wild card spot after winning 3 of their last 4 series. They went 1-2 against the Dodgers. So that was their only series loss during that stretch. But they ended the week strong by cooling off the red-hot Rockies. They swept them. So that's how you do it. The Giants exploded for 10+ twice against the Rockies. And they have a favorable schedule to carry that momentum. They play the Pirates and the Mets on the road this week. They beat both of them at home earlier this season, 2-1 in games. I think they can sweep the Mets. I genuinely think that's possible. I think the Pirates are playing a little better. I think you're going to have to face both Jones and Skeens, if I remember right. So might be a bit more difficult there against the Pirates, but I think the Mets are definitely doable for a sweep. I think they'll go 4-2, maybe 5-1 over the week. The Giants don't jump off the page statistically. LaMonte Wade is batting .321, but as a team, they sit in the middle of pack in almost all categories. They crack into the top 10 in batting average. Defensively, they're in the bottom 10 of ERA and whip and batting average against. So the fact that they sit just 2 games below 500 might be a little surprising. The stats don't show it, but they're getting it done. On to Seattle. The Mariners didn't have a bad week. Definitely didn't get the results they wanted. They ended up 3-3 with a series win against the Royals and a road series loss to the Orioles. If you could have pulled off that series win against the Orioles, that would have been huge, but just not quite able to get there. The Mariners haven't proved themselves often when given the chance, though. Against these top teams, They beat the Braves, and the Royals are definitely a solid win. But they've also lost to the Guardians, the Brewers, the Cubs, and the Orioles, and the Twins certainly isn't a loss that's helping them either. But a win against the Yankees this week in a 4-game road series would be huge. They have a chance to prove themselves there. So definitely that Mariners-Yankees series is one to watch. On offense, the Mariners are fairly average. They only crack the top 10 in home runs, where they're tied for ninth. The Mariners get a lot of their work done on defense and rank in the top 10 of ERA, WHIP, batting average against, hits allowed, walks allowed, and strikeouts. They lead the league in walks allowed and in WHIP rating, and they are second in hits allowed and third in average allowed. So a very solid team defensively, and that's where they're getting a lot of stuff done. The Cardinals now, that's our next team. They won both their series this week despite not having Wilson Contreras, so really good for them. The first series was against the injury-riddled Angels, so kind of something that most people probably expected, but the second was against a solid Boston team. They're not great, but they're also not terrible. They're definitely a middle-of-the-pack team, so to beat someone like that, it boosts confidence a little bit. St. Louis does have their work cut out for them, though. They have to face the Orioles and the Cubs this week, so we'll get a true sense of how well they can play without their star. But this lineup does include some really good players. They have 8-time All-Star Nolan Arenado, 7-time All-Star Paul Goldschmidt, and he's on an 8-game hitting streak, by the way. 3-time All-Star Matt Carpenter, and up-and-coming star Alec Burleson. He's batting a team best .292 and on a 5-game hit streak. So this team can definitely still do damage. They don't need Wilson Contreras. He's definitely a lot of help, but it's not something they need. They do need help, however, from their defense if they want to win the games, though. Currently, the Cardinals' pitching is in the bottom 10 of ERA, WHIP, and batting average against. They have also given up 5 or more runs in 11 of their last 14. Just not what you want to see. On to Tampa Bay. Their competitors, once again, thought maybe they were taking a step back this season, but they currently find themselves in a playoff spot. They won 5 of 7 this week, and both of those were road series against divisional rivals Boston and Toronto. The only loss to Boston was in 12 innings. So a really solid week for the Rays. The Rays have been competitive in series against top competition, but they haven't yet to win a series against a team currently in the playoffs. So that's their one weak spot. They're 0-3 in series against them, 3-6 in games, but they will have a chance to change that this week. They play Kansas City. I think they get it done. I think they go 2-1 in that series. Paredes and Rosario both hitting over 300. Jose Caballero is third in stolen bases. He has 17. So, props to him. Tampa is still outside of the top 10, though, in all hitting statistics except for stolen bases. They're 5th in stolen bases, so they're running really well. And they're 15th and worse in all pitching statistics except for walks allowed, where they're 9th, and strikeouts, where they're 10th. But in the last 15 days, the Rays are really turning that around. They're 6th in runs scored. They're tied for the most walks drawn. They're 3rd in stolen bases, 7th in on-base percentage, 4th in WHIP, 9th in batting average allowed, and 5th in walks allowed. So they're really turning things around. They're really improving. And if they keep this up, they're going to be dangerous again. We're looking at a 3-horse race probably for that AL East. And all 3 of those teams are really good. And I wouldn't put it past the fact that we could end up with a 1, 4, and 5 in the AL, all being AL East teams. I genuinely think that's possible. On to the Rangers. Texas is right back to 500 now. They've lost 7 of their last 9, including 4 of 6 this week, and they dropped both of their series 2 games to 1. The Guardians' loss isn't something that's bad, okay? It was a home loss, and they lost the run differential by 6 runs, which is a bit much, but we're not going to fault them too much for that. The Angels' loss, however, that's a bad one. You don't want to have the Angels' loss. Texas is continuing to lose to bad teams because we saw them lose to the Rockies last week, and then they lose to the Angels now. Not good. In the last 15 days, the Rangers are batting .234 with a slugging percentage of .360 and a .669 OPS. All of those are 20th or worse in the league, whereas the Rangers are in the top 15 in all 3 categories on the season. So they're struggling as of late. They need to get things back turned around. If they really want to be good competitors, we still have time in the season. Mariners aren't doing too hot, so they're not far off the lead in that AL West division. The AL West is probably going to be the division that ends with the worst record champion in the AL. So definitely going to be some competition there. Despite having the shutout in Game 3 against Cleveland, the Rangers still gave up 29 runs in 6 games this week while only scoring 15. Almost got doubled up. That's not good. But what is good for them, Corey Seager's average is down 80 points from last season. He was at 327, 247. That doesn't sound good. But the part that does sound good is he's going in the right direction. He's on a 5-game hit streak. So he's getting things going back in the right direction. Should be good. He's climbing up. We'll see if he can get back to where he was last year. On to Toronto. Team up north from Canada, the Blue Jays. They walk out of the past week 1 game further below 500, but they didn't play bad. They play in a very tough AL East division, and they drew 2 opponents from the division this past week. 2-3 record isn't bad. That's really not. They stayed even on run differential against the Orioles, and they were 1 inning away from a 2-game sweep against them. They dropped 2 one-run games to the Rays after that, but they still walked away with a positive run differential. So it was just a case of good team versus better team, and it could have gone either way. All 5 of their games they played this week could have gone either way. So, I mean, you want to see them win all those games if you're a Toronto fan, but you got to appreciate that they're at least being competitive. Toronto will get a bit of an easier set of games to play to end the month of May, as they'll have 6 against the White Sox, 3 against the Tigers, and 1 against the Pirates. So, despite being 5 games below 500, I think we could see the Blue Jays move above or to 500 by the month's end. Toronto has scored the 2nd least runs this season and do not pop out in any of the main batting or pitching statistical categories. But Vladdy has finally got things going. He's heating up. 452 with a 1069 OPS in the last 15 days. That brings the slash line to a 285, 395, 771. So very solid from him, and things are definitely going in the right direction for at least one player on this team. And our last team that we got to cover, we got the Washington Nationals. After Game 1 on Tuesday, the Nats were at 500. Since then, they've lost all 5 games. They've dropped back to 20-25 now. No one would blame the Nats if they dropped 1 game to the White Sox and got swept by the Phillies. We really wouldn't. But they lost 2 in shutout fashion to the White Sox. That's where the struggle comes in. 1 in 5 weeks not ideal, especially when you have the White Sox on your schedule. Looking for at least 1 more win there. Now Washington has to face the Twins and the Mariners, and then the Braves, and then the Guardians. Schedule's not getting easy. They are probably going to start to fumble and tumble and drop down these rankings and just not have a good record come the end of the month. They are bottom 5 in average, slugging, and OPS, as well as home runs and runs scored. And defensively, the Nats are in the bottom 10 in all categories except for ERA, where they rank 13th with a 3.92 ERA. On the bright side, though, the youngsters are showing out. Luis Garcia, CJ Abrams, Jacob Young, and Trey Lipscomb are all under 25, and they're batting over 250. And CJ Abrams has an OPS of 811, which is 37th in the MLB. Outstanding. And now it's time. We got it. The Brick Series of the Week. And it's going to go to that Tampa-Boston series. A really great series. Tampa entered into this one a game and a half back of Boston for the 3rd spot in that AL East division. One of the best divisions of baseball, if not the best. Both teams came out hot, put up 3 runs in the 1st inning of the series, but Tampa tacked on 2 more throughout the game to take Game 1. Game 2, it was back and forth. It went to extras. Boston fought back, though. They evened up the series with an RBI single in the 12th to walk it off. Game 3, back and forth. The game ends with Tampa getting the bigger 6th inning. They scored 3. Boston scored 1. They win by a run. Game 4, Tampa jumps out to an early 5-1 lead. Boston ties it up in the middle. Tampa in the 9th tacks on 2 runs. They secure the win. A 3-1 series win for them, and they leave a half game up on Boston. Really great series for Tampa. Really great series to watch. And just fun, nice entertainment. That's our series of the week. Now to the moment y'all have all been waiting for. It's time for the power rankings. Slotting in at 30 for the second week in a row, we got the Marlins. You could possibly move them up above the White Sox, but I just don't think they're there yet. So I'm keeping the White Sox at 29. The A's are a big loser, dropping 0-7 this week. Didn't get a win. They're 28th now. I keep the Angels in at 27, which means that the Rockies move up 2 spots. Yes, I know they got swept by the Giants, but they also swept the Padres. I think this team has potential. I think they have a lot more potential than everybody below them, especially if Trout's going to be out long term and if Rendon's going to be out long term. Not sure how long either one of those players will be out. I'm sure Trout's out for a while, but we'll see when they come back. I think the Rockies do have more potential, though. I have the Reds falling a few spots after this week. They're going to drop down to 25. Not too terrible. Cardinals are going to move just above them. They're going to slot in at 24. So I don't think the Cardinals are the worst team in this division anymore. Anyways, I have the Nationals down 4 spots here. They're going to 23rd. Was looking a little high on them. They had a good record, and I was like, it's finally time. We need to respect them. Couldn't back it up this week. So right back to where they kind of were. Right back to where a lot of places should have them, I think. I have the Mets right above them. I said it earlier, they're fighting for that worst spot in the NL East, and they seem to really be wanting it. I don't know why. But we move on to 21st. We got the Pirates. Pirates had a good week. Nice, solid little week. Barely over 500 on the week, but I think they're showing promise. That Paul Skeens, Jared Jones duo is going to be solid. I think that they're going to win a lot of games because of it. And that's why I'm moving back up to 21 from 26. Blue Jays are going to stay right there at 20. One of the few teams in here in this middle stretch that's not moving at all. The only team actually in these middle 10 that doesn't move. The Astros up 5 spots. We saw it all over the place. Their numbers are fantastic. They're just not getting the wins. They finally get some good results this week. 19 is a good spot for them. Giants, I have them up 3-18. I think they're a solid team. They put up a little bit of a fight against the Dodgers. They look good at home. They look really good at home. So, they swept the Rockies. I like this team still. Maybe you could argue the Astros over the Giants, but I'm just not ready for that yet. The Giants are right outside of that playoffs in the NL. So, 18 I feel is about right. Have the Red Sox in at 17. A struggle of a week. I still think they are an okay ball club. 17 is about right where I feel that they are. Diamondbacks at 16 and the Tigers right above them. Is there a lot of separation between the Diamondbacks and the Tigers? We saw it on the field, yes. But looking at how they play other teams, not too much. But I definitely feel that they're in the right spots. This is the right spot for both of those teams. And honestly, maybe you could argue the Tigers over the Twins. I have the Twins in 14th. Twins are really sliding. Rough week. But I'm keeping them there right now. I'm gonna let them prove themselves this week if they can. If not, Tigers will take that spot. But I'm letting the Twins have a chance to prove themselves before they fall off completely. The Rays are up 4 spots. They're in the playoffs now. They're doing good. This team is starting to impress me a little bit. We thought that they weren't going to be so hot, and they're getting right back to where they were. Right back to where we should have known that they would have been. But right above them, I have the Rangers. And I don't know what to do with the Rangers at this point. You could even argue the Rangers below the Rays, I think. But, dude, the Rangers, they're World Series champs. They have something in them. I know that they have that power, but I can't give them bias for it. Do I think they still have a shot to win the World Series this year? Yes. Do I think they have a shot how they're playing right now? Heck no. Not at all. But I think 12 isn't okay. I think it's fair. I don't want to drop them too far. You don't see the Brewers in this middle range. I dropped them to the middle range last week. Kind of regretted it. We'll see them in the top 10. Back in the top 10 this week. The Padres down 1 spot to 11. They fall into this middle range. And that's really just because they got swept by the Rockies. But it pulls them back up because they're beating the Braves right now, and the Braves are a solid team. The Braves are one of my World Series contenders. They're towards the bottom of that list now. but we'll see where they shake out. As we move over to the top 10, we got the Royals in at 10th. I feel like this is right. They lost to the Mariners this week, so the Mariners are moving up 4 spots. They're going to be in 9th. I think that's about right. Have the Cubs slotting in at 8th, and that's because of recent results. The Brewers and the Cubs both played the Pirates this week. The Brewers performed a lot better against the Pirates, so that's why the Brewers are going to slot in just above the Cubs. They have the better record. They're leading the NL Central. I feel like nobody would get mad at me for doing that, and I think it's the right move. The Guardians, I have them at 6th. Now, I think it's possible you could move them above the Braves, who I have in 5th, but I'm letting that series shake out. I'm letting the series between the Padres and the Braves shake out before I drop the Braves any further. I think 5 is fair still, but they definitely deserve to drop from that 3 spot. The Yankees are going to come in at 4. So the Yankees are moving up after a perfect week. I like this team. I think that they could be better than the Orioles at this point. That series was at the end of April and beginning of May where they did lose, but right now they seem to be playing a little better than the Orioles, just not quite confident enough to move them above yet. So the Orioles are in that 3rd spot. We saw that they have power. We saw that they're doing really well, and all the stats back that up. So they definitely deserve to be up here. They could be 2, they could be 4. It just depends where you want to put them. And I also have the Dodgers falling a spot. They're no longer number 1. Almost put them there. Almost left them. But the way that the Phillies have been playing, it's just so great right now. And it pains me to say that the Phillies are playing well. It really does. But they deserve the 1 spot. They definitely deserve it. Best record in baseball. They're playing great offense, great defense. Everything's clicking for this team. And if they keep this up, they will be a World Series contender. And, I mean, they already are, but they definitely have a chance. If they play like this in the playoffs, they're winning the World Series. There's no question about it. So that's why they're my number 1 team. Well, that concludes the Power Rankings. And with that, that concludes the show. So, thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. I'll see y'all next week with another one of these MLB recaps.